Hey everyone! Today we're going to tackle some of the most powerful and, let's be honest, sometimes confusing words in the English language. Prepositions. They might be small, but they do a ton of work, and really nailing them down is the key to speaking and writing clearly.
Have you ever paused for a second wondering if you should use in or into, or maybe on versus onto? If you have, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common challenge. These little words are all about defining relationships, so picking the right one is absolutely crucial.
So let's start from the very beginning. What exactly is a preposition? Before we get into all the tricky situations, let's just build a nice solid foundation.
Okay, here's the textbook definition, but let's break it down. At its heart, a preposition is like a little signpost in your sentence. It tells you where something is, where it's going, or when it's happening. It connects a noun or a pronoun to another word and shows you how they relate to each other.
Let's take a super simple example. She is in the room. See that little word in? That's our preposition. It comes right before the noun room, and it tells us the relationship between she and the room. It tells us her location. Simple, right? But so important.
All right, so prepositions have two main jobs. The first one, and probably the one we use most often, is to talk about position. We're talking about a static, unmoving location. There's no action happening here. We're just answering the simple question, where is it?
For example, look at this. The coins are already inside the jar. They're in a fixed spot inside an enclosed space. So the preposition we use is in. The coins are in the jar.
Now, what about a surface? The cat is resting on the table. It's not inside the table. Obviously, it's on top of it. For surfaces, we use the preposition on.
And if something is directly below something else, maybe even covered by it, the word you're looking for is under. The football is under the table. Make sense?
You know, a really good trick for getting these right is to learn them in pairs, as opposites. So let's start with a classic pair. Behind versus in front of. Okay, look here. On the left, we can't really see the ball well because the table is in the way. So the ball is behind the table. But on the right, the ball is between us and the table. That makes it in front of the table. See? It all depends on your point of view.
Let's try a slightly more subtle pair. Beside and near. Beside means it's right next to it, like touching distance. Near, on the other hand, is a little more general. It just means it's close by, but not necessarily right up against it.
And you can really see that difference here. Beside means the ball is right there, at the side of the table. But near just means it's in the general area. It could be a little in front, a little behind. It's just close.
And the last preposition of position we'll look at is between. This one's pretty straightforward. You use it when something is in the space that separates two other things, just like the football here, sitting right between the two tables.
Okay, so we've got static position down. Now let's shift gears to the second big job of prepositions, describing movement. This is where things get really interesting. And honestly, it's where a lot of common mistakes happen.
Let's start with one of the biggest points of confusion out there, in versus into. The rule is actually really simple once you see it. In is for a static position, like we just saw. Into is for the action of entering someplace. It's all about movement.
Check this out. On the left, the coins are just chilling in the jar. That's their position. But on the right, the spider is making a move. It's going from outside to inside. So, it jumped into the jar. That action, that movement, is what calls for into.
And guess what? It's the exact same logic for surfaces. On tells you the final resting place. Onto describes the action of getting there, of moving to that surface.
So, the cat sits on the table. That's its static position. But how did it get there? It jumped. To describe that action of arriving on the table, we say it jumped onto the table. The verb jumped signals movement, and that's our cue to use onto. Of course, there are other ways to describe movement. Toward means moving in the direction of something. The opposite of that is away from. And over describes something passing above an object, but not actually touching it. Okay, our last comparison for movement, across versus through. Across is for when you're moving from one side to the other on a surface, something two-dimensional. Through is for moving from one side to the other, but inside a three-dimensional enclosed space. This makes it crystal clear. A bridge is a surface, right? So the cat walks across it. But a tunnel is an enclosed space, so the train passes through it. That's the key difference to remember. Surface versus enclosure. Phew! We have covered position and movement. Now, to wrap things up, let's look at some important general rules for prepositions that deal with time, place, and even tools. Think of this next slide as your personal cheat sheet.
This little table is super helpful. Basically, we use at for specific, pinpointed things like small places or exact times. In is for bigger things, larger places, longer periods of time. On is great for surfaces, but also for specific days and dates. With tells you what tool you use to do something, and within gives you a deadline. You might even want to pause and take a good look at these.
So we've broken down the key differences between prepositions of position and movement. But you know, the absolute best way to make this stuff stick is to use it right away. So take a second and just look around you. Can you describe where you are using 3 different prepositions? Maybe you're in a room, sitting on a chair near a window. Give it a try. Practice really is what makes perfect.